Période des questions, question period. Sénateur Houssakos.
Madame la Présidente, ma question s'adresse au...
Madam Speaker, my question is for the government representative in the Senate. In 2024, overdose deaths increased by 33% in Quebec. We're now talking about 2 people dying daily. Emergency room visits related to opioid overuse have increased by 38%. The figure is going up so much that Ottawa's response is reactive and based on unfounded policies. Why is the government not able to set up a national strategy, a clear strategy to attack the opioid crisis in Quebec? A strategy that would concretely reduce the number of overdoses and not simply manage them. Senator Gold, thank you for the question, and thank you for underscoring not only the importance but the tragedy of deaths caused by fentanyl use and use of other drugs, other dangerous drugs. The government of Canada has set up an extremely important plan to ensure that our border is more resilient with regard to import of fentanyl and other drugs. According to recent statistics, there is a drop in use here in Canada. Of course, every single life is precious, and every single lost life because of opioid use is a tragedy that we should all deplore. Senator Houssakos. This government's failure is extraordinary. What guarantees can you provide that the government will commit to working with Quebec to set up an effective response that is focused on results and not just talking points, that includes better follow-up, better application, investments in healing and treatment? Senator Gold, the government of Canada is working with the Quebec government and other provinces as well, the provinces and territories, in their health jurisdictions and other fields to ensure that Canadians, Quebecers are protected, and the government will continue to deploy efforts in this respect.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question today is for the Leader of the Government in the Senate. Leader, when John Cabot discovered Newfoundland in 1497, it is said that when they lowered their baskets over the side of the Matthew, the baskets were immediately filled with fish. When Canada joined Newfoundland in 1949, jurisdiction over the greatest food resource in the world was transferred from the government of Newfoundland to the government of Canada, under the terms of union. In my humble opinion, a major mistake. Throughout the years following, regardless of the political strife here in Ottawa, our fish was used as a bargaining chip in trade negotiations, and in many instances, our fish was traded off to foreign nations in return for job creation in different regions of Canada. Thus, in July 1992, John Crosbie announced a moratorium of cod fishing, and overnight 40,000 people lost their livelihoods in our province. That would be equal to 600,000 in Ontario. My question today is, as we search the world for new trading partners in light of the Trump tariffs, can the government assure the people of Newfoundland and Labrador that our fish will not be on the negotiating table this time, and our fish will not be traded off in order to create jobs in other parts?
Senator Gold.
As the government representative in this chamber, and as a former deputy chair of Oceans and Fisheries, which was an enormous learning experience and privilege to work with you, Senator Manning. I can assure you that this government will work to protect all sectors of our economy in all regions as it engages in discussions with current and potential trade partners. Let me also take this opportunity. I understand that you have been renamed as chair of the Fisheries and Oceans Committee. I think it's a record, 14 years perhaps in the same role, and it's a testament to the qualities that you bring to that, which I witnessed firsthand as chair. Thank you for the question.
Senator Manning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Flattery will get you everywhere. The The 1992 cod moratorium not only caused the loss of 40,000 jobs overnight, it resulted in the loss of a proud way of life, the loss of our culture and heritage, of which we Newfoundlanders are so proud of. Leader, would you ask the members of the government, Minister of Fisheries and other relevant ministers, to include Newfoundland and Labrador in the discussions when they put fish or anything else back on the table that relates to our province?
Senator Gold.
Senator, it would be my great pleasure to do that, and I'm going to add to my request that they send me at my own expense to Newfoundland just to verify that that is the case.
Senatrice Mégy.
Senator Mégy. Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is my very last question for the government representative, Senator Gold. Le Devoir newspaper reported that the latest heat wave turned Montreal into a furnace. The number of calls to Urgence Santé paramedics for heat stroke has risen significantly since Monday, when the humidex reached nearly 40 degrees Celsius. And I'm thinking of my seniors who are cared for at home or in long-term care homes and don't have sufficient ventilation. How can the federal program to build a stronger Canada, adapted to climate change, provide our elderly with a safer environment, or a healthier environment, rather? Senator Gold, thank you for the question and for underscoring not only the importance of our collective fight against climate change, but also the importance of resilience as we adapt to this new reality. Canada has a national adaptation strategy to reduce risks at all levels of government so that communities can defend themselves against the impact of climate change. And seniors are in our thoughts. The government is continuing to work with provinces and territories as well as municipalities to adapt to the consequences of climate change and to set up measures for our citizens. Senator Mégy.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Senator Faure, thank you, first of all, for Senator Gold, for your major contribution to this institution. My question, at a time when we're trying to strike a better balance between the arrival of new immigrants and our reception capacity, the tighter conditions of the temporary foreign workers program are being felt. A survey of Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean businesses conducted by the Union of Prefects shows that a third of businesses expect to lose contracts. Here's a concrete example. A metal construction contractor has put two $11 million investment projects on hold, not because of U.S. tariffs, but because of the uncertainty surrounding the possibility of retaining its temporary foreign workers. Instead of applying wall-to-wall policies, is it possible for the government to take account of regional specificities in terms of the labor market and reception capacity, as suggested by the Union of Prefects from the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean region? Thank you for the question. I understand, and the government understands well the challenges faced by businesses because of the labor shortage. All senators here understand the importance of finding the right balance between integrating new immigrants and being able to respond to the labor shortage. The government will continue working with provinces to ensure that the needs are properly understood in the provinces and territories, and to adjust government policies in consequence. Senator Faure, according to the same survey, 2 out of 5 companies will have to reduce their production capacity, and some will even have to shut down because temporary foreign workers are unavailable. The Union of Prefects, again, is proposing targeted adjustments to the new rules to allow employers to keep workers already in the region. Will the government listen to these proposals to avoid making our regions even more precarious? Senator Gold, thank you for the question. Once again, the government is working closely with provinces to reach this necessary balance so that we can continue to bring in the immigrants that we need in an appropriate way.
Senator Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, Senator Gold, let me begin by thanking you for your service to the Senate, to government, and most of all to Canadians. While I'm not really sure you're looking forward to retirement, at least we can say that you may not miss after this week the need to participate in the thrilling question period. My question has to do with the announcement on June the 9th by the Prime Minister regarding the increase in defence spending. During the technical briefing that day, officials and comments made by Minister McGuinty the next day, it looked like the Government of Canada was committed to providing a 20% pay increase to members of the Canadian Armed Forces. And I can tell you, people who wear uniform were very thrilled about that. And remember, words matter. I say it looked like because further comments made by officials and others in the Department of National Defence seem to be muddying the waters a bit. Media now reporting that the 20% increase is an overall figure based on factors such as specialised pay and benefits, etc. Members of the Canadian Armed Forces are becoming a little distressed. Senator Gold, can you provide some clarity on this? What 20% means, particularly since senators will be voting on $9 million.
Senator Gold.
Thank you for your question. The government indeed made that commitment. It also committed to $2.6 billion, both on a cash basis and on an accrual basis, to empower the military to recruit and retain the personnel it needs to carry out its important mandate. The government's plan is to accelerate recruitment and to reinforce retention, to bring the armed forces to 71,500 regular and 30,000 primary reserve members by 2030. Colleagues, there are 13,000 regular and primary reserve members who are needed to reach that goal. This would include investments in recruitment and retention efforts to ensure that the CAF has the personnel it needs to ready respond effectively to threats abroad and, importantly, also to engage meaningfully here at home. The government will have more to say about that in the coming weeks.
Senator Patterson. Senator Cardozo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to ask the government representative a question. Senator Gold, you are a musician who likes strumming on your guitar, and I'm curious, starting next week, who are you going to be channeling? Will it be Otis Redding? I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Will it be Zero Mostel? And let me paraphrase. If I were a rich man, all day long I'd bitty bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. Or would it be Johnny Paycheck? You better not stand in my way. As I'm walking out the door, take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. Or Leonard Cohen's Dance Me to the End of Love. Senator Gold, what's going to be your theme song?
Well, you've named a lot of my favorite artists, and I don't think I'll have one theme song. That's a very lovely way to end this session. But just a few days ago, Nancy and I went to see Mavis Staples here in Ottawa, and I've loved Mavis Staples ever since she was a gospel singer. Before she went to pop, and my wife saw her and even met her back in 1978, and she was unbelievable. So I think I'll take a page. And this sounds a bit self-centered, you'll forgive me, but I think my theme song will be Respect Yourself, because that's what I think we all should be doing in our life, whether in our work or in the chapters that follow. But thank you for your question.
Because if you find yourself strumming, knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door, Senator Gold, I want you to step away from your car, your guitar, grab your wife, Nancy, jump in the car, and drive back here to the Senate of Canada building. We can help you. But I want to say to you, Senatrice Mégy and Senator Siedemann, la chanson que je...
The song that I want to sing to you is the following. My people, the time has come to let us speak to you of love. My people, the time has come to let us speak to you of love.
Un instant pour notre regretter.
And I'll just take a moment to speak of our late leader of Harmonium. Will you allow me unanimous consent, Senator Housakis?
Mentioned yesterday in our exchange, Samadoun remains federally registered as a non-for-profit despite its designation as a terrorist organization. While you've pointed to the CRA's role in regulating charitable status, it is Corporations Canada, under Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, that oversees the incorporation and legal standing of non-for-profit entities. Can you confirm whether ISED or Corporations Canada has the authority to suspend or dissolve a federally incorporated non-for-profit once it is designated as a terrorist group? Why has no action been taken by this government?
Senator Gold.
Thank you for your question. I don't know the answer to your question, but I do know that that issue has been raised and is under consideration.
Senator Housakos.
Senator Gold, we need action. We don't need consideration. The minister responsible for ISED is Melanie Joly, the same minister who, as foreign affairs minister, delayed for years listing Samadoun as a terrorist entity. If ISED has the authority to act against terrorist-linked non-for-profits but hasn't, isn't that a failure of enforcement or a lack of political will? Will this government instruct clearly ISED to review its responsibilities in this matter and take action as quickly as possible?
Senator Gold.
As I said, Senator, thank you for your question. My understanding is that the issue has been communicated, and I think the government will make its appropriate announcement when it has come to a conclusion.
Senator Martin.
Senator Gold, I hope you're enjoying your final QP. Every question, every response, and congratulations on your distinguished service to the Senate and to Canada. Now to the question. Minister of Artificial Intelligence is supposed to safeguard the public interest in one of the most powerful technologies of our time. Instead, according to a recent Globe and Mail column, the minister appears more interested in acting as a cheerleader for AI corporations, touting data centers and monetization while downplaying the urgent need for regulation. Canadians are rightly concerned about the risks AI poses to their privacy, national security, and energy grid. When will this government stop acting as a champion for big tech and start enforcing strong, transparent rules to protect Canadians from AI's real harms?
Senator Gold.
Thank you for your question and for your kind words, Senator. This government and this country this government is proud to have Minister Solomon as minister responsible for this file. He brings enormous talent and ability and experience to the role. There is a need to find the appropriate measures and balance towards regulating this enormously important and pervasive and growing tool while preserving the privacy interests, rights of Canadians. Minister Solomon is seized with this issue, as is this government. This government is sometimes attacked for being in the pocket of big tech, and then maligned for taking it on, as we've experienced here. We'll do our job. The government will do its job.
Thank you, Senator Gold. Senator Martin.
So will the government commit to publishing a clear timeline for implementing privacy, security, and environmental regulations related to AI development so Canadians can be assured that innovation is not outpacing public safeguards?
Senator Gold.
The government is taking seriously the challenges, and they are enormous challenges, and not only domestic, of dealing with the pervasive and growing presence of AI in all aspects of our life. It will continue to do this work diligently and in the best interests of Canadians.
Senatrice Yuans.
Senator Yuans. Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the government representative in the Senate. On March 7th, the federal government unveiled design models as part of the Housing Design Catalog. And the current Prime Minister, on March 31st, during the election campaign, announced that the government would build more affordable homes, with Canada's most ambitious housing plan since the Second World War. The promise was to double the rate of residential construction to 500,000 homes a year. Creating Canada Homes would bring the Canadian government back into the residential construction sector and would act as a developer to build affordable housing on a large scale, including on public land. When will the government's first affordable housing units go on sale for Canadians? Senator Gold, thank you for your question, Senator. Although I cannot give you the exact date for the time being, I know the work is underway. And this government has a credible and ambitious plan to address the housing crisis. Aside from the federal government's work in the sector of affordable housing, now the government has addressed the issue of GST costs and has reduced other expenses relating to low-income housing. This is part of the Accelerator Fund for Housing, with 200 communities throughout the country that will benefit from 750,000 housing units. Question. With Canada's military spending set to increase by 5% of GDP, could some of this money be used to host our soldiers and veterans at home? Thank you for your question. This work is already underway, thanks to our North Strong and Free. $1.4 additional million were set aside to build 1,400 residential units and to renovate 2,500 units throughout Canada, which would mean the Housing Centre for Canadian Forces would mean there would be more residential housing units for the forces. Senator Lofreda.
What an honor. I think this is your last question in chamber. So next Tuesday is Canada Day, and I want to thank you for your service, your exceptional service. Thank you very much. Next Tuesday is Canada Day. For the occasion, Canadian talent will be on full display as we celebrate our culture and identity. Here in Ottawa, festivities will include a star-studded lineup with Canadian icons Randy Bachman, Rock Voisin, Sarah McLaughlin, Edith Butler, Mitsu, and many up-and-coming musicians from across the nation. Many of these new artists need an environment that allows them to thrive and reach new audiences. What is the government's plan to support Canada's music industry, and how will it implement winning conditions for the industry to grow and Canadian content to flourish?
Senator Gold.
Thank you for your question and for your nice, kind words, Senator Lofreda. The way in which we're engaging with culture generally, with media and music is changing all the time, as we know. But the government's goal remains steadfast to celebrate Canadian identity and culture while supporting talented creators. The government, previous government ushered in the first modernization of the Broadcasting Act since the digital age under C11, ensuring that platforms are contributing to the creation, promotion, and distribution of our music and culture. And now more than ever, there is a need to continue to showcase Canadian content and ensure it's accessible to Canadians. So this government will continue to work hand in hand with all partners. It won't waver from the belief that more Canadian content for consumers at home and around the world is good for everyone, even those old guitar players like me.
Senator Lofreda.
Merci. Thank you for that answer. And like the classic Canadian anthem, I want to extend my gratitude to you, Senator Gold, for taking care of business and working overtime, no doubt. All these years, we will miss you. Thank you for your exceptional service. But as an accomplished musician yourself, who can definitely make sounds loud or mellow like BTO, and since this is our last exchange, I need to know, the Beatles or the Stones, Celine, Shania, or Alanis, BTO, or the Guess Who?
Senator Gold.
That's an unfair question. But I remember the Guess Who before they were the Guess Who, when it was Chad Allen and the Expressions.
There you go. There you go.
And the Beatles got me into my first electric guitar, but I listen to the Stones these days more than the Beatles, and I can't remember the other one, but I like Alanis Morissette, but Shania Twain still is great. But there are others that I could add were time to permit.
Rum Ragged.
Rum Ragged.
Senator Aucoin.
Senator Aucoin. Mr. Gold, it is with love that I will be asking you these questions. I want to commend you and thank you for everything. Thanks to annual funding of $500,000 from Canadian Heritage, the Fête Nationale de l'Acadie has experienced remarkable growth, with more than 250 activities from coast to coast, including in historically excluded or majority Anglophone communities. Despite this impact, the celebration remains excluded from the Celebrate Canada program, which, however, provides stable funding for other major national celebrations. In 2024, one-off support over 3 years was granted, but no guarantee beyond 2026. Knowing that August 15 fully meets the criteria of this program, why is the government still hesitating to officially include National Acadian Day, Fête Nationale de l'Acadie, in the program and give it the stable funding and recognition it deserves, just like other national celebrations? Senator Gold, thank you for the question. As you've noted, today there is funding for the Fête Nationale de l'Acadie. This is funding that is significant, that recognizes the cultural contribution of Acadians and their historical role in Canada and their specificity and diversity. I am convinced, dear colleague, that once the current funding elapses, the government will carefully examine the possibility of continuing to extend funding in the future. Question? Thank you, Mr. Gold. But since 2009, Radio Canada's national broadcast of the August 15th show has played a key role in promoting Acadian culture. In 2024, however, the broadcast was cancelled, then reinstated under pressure and thanks to one-time funding. In 2025, it's now the Société Nationale de l'Acadie that on its own takes sole responsibility for production with an insufficient and unpredictable budget. Does the government intend to guarantee stable long-term support to ensure the quality and longevity that's iconic? Your time has elapsed, Senator Gold. Thank you for the question and for raising this important issue. I cannot speculate on further financial arrangements or announcements, but I am quite certain that the government will closely examine the options to fund this important celebration.
Senator Gold, Canada's steel industry is in crisis. With U.S. tariffs now doubled to 50%, production is falling, and more Canadian workers are at risk of being laid off. Yet the government's response, a delayed counter-tariff plan tied to uncertain trade talks, has been described by industry leaders as falling short. Back in March, under threat of these very tariffs, Prime Minister Mark Carney said his government was made to meet the moment. Well, if that's true, why isn't he meeting the moment for Canada's steel industry? Why isn't he stepping up with the swift support and freight measures other workers urgently need?
Senator Gold.
Thank you for your question and for underlying the challenges that workers in the steel industry, as so many other workers in so many other industries, are facing, given the tariffs that have been unjustly imposed and the uncertainty that remains with regard to how these issues will ultimately be resolved. This government is working very, very diligently, carefully, and regularly to address all of these issues, including the lifting of the tariffs and including making sure that the proper supports are put in place to help our industries. A day does not go by when the Prime Minister and his ministers are engaged on this file. They'll continue to do so and we hope that the situation will stabilize and improve for the benefit of Canadian workers and companies and families.
Senator Husakos.
Well, this government isn't working very effectively for steel workers, I can tell you that. When the Prime Minister dismissively asked last January, how much steel are you using, steel workers and Canadians heard something else. A $15 billion industry, 12 million tons of annual production, 23,000 direct jobs, and 100,000 more that depend on it. Vital plants in places like Hamilton and Sault Ste. Marie. Will the government now show it truly understands what's at stake and act immediately with counter tariffs on the U.S. and block the dumping of steel in Canada by repeated trade offenders?
Senator Gold.
The Minister has been very clear on all of these issues. It's also been clear that the path forward, whether it's in terms of increasing our defense investments or indeed the building of national projects, is to ensure that Canadian businesses and manufacturers, including those in the steel and aluminum sector, are fully utilized to support the growth of our economy and our defenses.
Le temps alloué pour la période de questions est maintenant écoulé.
The time for question period has elapsed.